Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. Today, I'm going to show you how to keep your bonsai healthy. Um, this tree, which I call my crabapple tree, and also one viewer suggested that I call it a dryad tree, which is really interesting. Like in Greek mythology, a dryad is a tree nymph or nature spirit that lives in the trees, and it also comes from the Greek word drus, meaning oak. So that is a pretty cool name, and I may have to consider my choice, particularly with some of what we're going to do with this tree today. So this tree has always been very healthy and a great grower. It's in kind of a deep pot, but lately something very unusual has been happening with it. Happening with it, and at first I just kind of ignored it, but the time has come for action. He who hesitates is lost, and I want to take you through with how I figure out what the issue is when I find a tree that's having some problems. So I noticed some time ago some of the leaves were turning quite yellow, which is kind of unusual for this tree. I mean, almost like a Portulacaria Afra aria, which normally does that. And at first I just kind of ignored it, but then it happened to more leaves, and then all of a sudden, almost the whole tree. And then I started seeing it in some of my other trees, and I thought I better get on this. So let's take a look and I'll show you what it looks like. The leaves seem healthy. It's just that they have changed color. And so I really wanted to get to the bottom of this and find out what's going on. So if we look at this, and I'll try to show you, I don't know how it shows up in the video, but they're quite yellow in comparison. They're normally a dark green. I think you can definitely kind of see it, but the tree is kind of growing okay, but it's quite concerning, the color on this. But you can see they're plump. They're not wilted. They're not mushy. I mean, they seem healthy except for the fact that they are quite yellow. So what I like to do, and I think this is really good advice, is especially when you look at a tree like this, like you know I don't think it's underwater or overwatering. And it's best if you don't know, just pull it out of the pot. You can always pull it out, and if everything looks fine at a quick glance, you just put it right back in, and it's really not any stress to the tree. But if you pull it out and you find a big problem, well, you may just save the tree. So I think it's always a good idea. Let's just pull this one out. And it's got a nice root ball here. It's not too wet. The roots, they look a little odd here on the bottom. Like they're clearly not healthy. You can see where, they're not mushy and brown and rotted, but it looks like, they just don't look how I would expect them to look on the very bottom. The rest of it looks pretty good, when you go a little ways up. And so, um, I've been meaning to sort of put this tree in a different pot anyhow. Something that, I mean, I love that blue pot, but I think it's a bit too deep, and I think this tree will look a lot better in a shallow pot. And I haven't repotted this in a while, so I'm going to take this opportunity. I'll gently clean out the roots here, and we'll repot it because it's yellow, but it's healthy. I don't think it's in any danger of dying. And in fact, let me, while I'm working on extracting this root ball here, let me talk about a few things that I think could have caused this. Now, of course, the biggest issue with dwarf jades is watering, um, overwatering. But I've had this tree for a few years now, and I don't see lots of evidence of rot here. So I don't really think that was it. And usually, when you see yellow leaves, it's oftentimes related to fertilizer, right? Like you're either not fertilizing enough, which is most often the case. I've seen that many times with jades. You give them some food and they just green right up. Or too much fertilizer, which is what I think happened here. Um, and I'll explain to you what happened. Of course, I didn't figure this out until I noticed several trees having some issues. So what happened here is a combination of too much fertilizer and sort of a buildup of fertilizer salts in the bottom of the pot. And let me explain why. I recently had to get some new fertilizer, and I always mix fertilizer with my water. So every time I water the trees, I'm giving them a diluted version of fertilizer. But in this case, I somehow picked up the wrong scoop, and I was fertilizing them probably at about 6 times the normal amount. Now, I don't think that would have been too detrimental by itself because I think these trees, they can take a ton of fertilizer as long as they're growing. But the issue is the way that I water. You've probably seen pictures of my indoor shelving that I use, and so I don't want. The bottom line is I don't flush a lot of water through the pot when I water because I don't want a big mess. Now I do periodically soak them and do that, but I hadn't been too diligent with that lately. And so what I'm quite sure happened is, I water and then as soon as the water starts coming out of the bottom of the pot, I stop watering. And I think over a period of a long time, these fertilizer salts just, sort of gathered at the bottom of the pot, and eventually sort of killed the tips of the roots down there. But along the same time, I think the tree was also absorbing perhaps way too much fertilizer. I can't completely explain why the leaves seem healthy, but they're yellow. But I think it really got an abundance of maybe these salts actually caused that. But I'm quite sure that was the case, specifically since I've seen the same thing on some other trees. And I have since started flushing the pots, and the color is coming back. So I'm quite sure that was it. So I've got the root ball cleaned up here. Let's do a little pruning. I don't know if I've ever done much root pruning on this, and I don't want to take a lot off, but I definitely want to flatten it out. I'm going to put it in a much flatter pot, so I'm just kind of taking the bottom off here. And you can be fairly aggressive with the roots on this. The leaves appear healthy, so I'm not too worried about it. It's kind of hard to kill these things, to be honest with you, unless you do overwater them. But let me just look at the roots here. I think I make it a bit flatter. I mean, this tree, as long as I've had it, has been this is kind of one that's curling around, which I think I'm just going to take that off because it's not even going to be visible. And I really want these roots to start growing out horizontally. I've always had it in a deep pot, so they've tended to grow down. And so, I just want to cut them back and get them used to growing much more horizontally. I've had really good luck with Portulacaria Afra in general. Like they really seem to love growing in super shallow pots. So I'm going to flatten the root ball down here and make it a bit more shallow so I can get it into what I think will be a much more appropriate pot. Like I said, I've always loved that blue pot, but I think we can find a much more fitting pot. And I think that is just about all I want to do as far as the roots on this. I'm leaving a fair amount of white stuff on there. So let me clear this out, and I'll bring some pots in. And I think I have a variety of them here. We can take a look. And, I always like to bring in 2, 3, whatever, at least 3 pots. And, see how the tree looks in them. And because there's really no way, I mean, you sort of think it's going to look good, but so often I've bought a pot with a particular tree in mind and it just doesn't work. So let me dumped out our debris and let's take a look at this and see what we want to do here. Let me get the camera. I think it looks good in a round pot, and I could put it back in this blue pot and just let it grow some more. Be absolutely fine. I think that would work well. But let me get this out of the way so we can see the pots more clearly here. And get the camera down so you get that sort of eye level view where you're kind of looking up into the tree. Much like a real viewer would see the tree sort of walking in an orchard or something. So let's look at this blue one again. It is very charming. You know, I really do like blue, and I kind of like this pot. Um, and I think it would work, but it really does sort of overpower the tree. It's just it's too deep. You know, I think this pot would be better for a sort of a semi cascade or something like that. So let's bring in another pot here. This is one that I got for Christmas actually, and it's quite a charming pot. It's a Japanese pot, um, and that looks great. I mean, I think the pot's about the right size. I don't know if I'd put it on this side, maybe more to the middle or to the other side. Maybe twist it a bit. Yeah, I think that would work. I mean, I think it's a perfect size, and it has some room for the roots to grow. You know, here's another pot that I got recently. It's a Chinese pot, blue. You know, it's a really beautiful blue. And I think this would work too. This actually would give it a lot more room to grow. I think you know there's plenty of root room in here. But you know, man, when I see it in this green pot, especially off to the right here, I really I really like that. I think you know, I think it'll have more than enough room, and it will really give the tree a chance to grow some horizontal roots. And you know, I just think I kind of like there's sort of a lip on the pot, which I think helps frame it better. It's just, you know, just the green pot is just a bit more, you know, refined, and I think it fits it fits the tree a bit better. But the blue pot would work. It looks a little bit big now, but I mean I am, you know, there'll be more branches coming out on this, so I think it would absolutely work. But let's look at a round pot. I've always loved this tree in a round pot, and this is a cool pot. Yeah, it really pops in a round pot, you know. I just feel, you know, it's kind of a feminine tree, and I think it really just looks good in a round pot. I really do like this one as well. But the blue one's out. So let's see. Let me bring this green one back. And you know, it's kind of a yeah. That yellow pot just really looks good. But I'm wondering when yeah, I don't know. I really think the green one is quite a nice pot as well. It's got you know, it's sort of a softer pot. You know, it doesn't have these hard edges. So I think you know, it's kind of a feminine rectangle pot for the lack of a better description. So I think it'll actually work with this tree. Um, It sounds like I'm really talking myself into this green one, doesn't it? But I have one more pot that I just grabbed here. Let's take a look at it. This is a pot I really like. You know, but I think the tree is kind of lost in this, right? It's really, if I were going to grow this tree on a lot, um, you know, I might put it in here, but I think it's just way too big for the pot. So we're going green. I am really happy with this choice, and I just love this pot. I think it works really well with the tree, and I think I'm gonna be super, super happy, you know, in its new home. So I'll just prepare the pot. You know, it's got let's look here. It's got a couple of nice drainage holes in it, and yeah. So I just need to wire those in there. I won't make you sit through that, so we'll just jump ahead here a bit when I've got the pot ready to put the tree in. So there we go. I've got some drainage holes, and I put a tie wire in there. I kind of like to wire the trees in at least for a little bit till I'm confident they grow roots. And yeah, we're going to use this as the front because it's got kind of a bump on the other side. And, you know, I kind of want to see exactly where I want the tree in the pot. I think a bit off to the right here. It's great. So I'm putting a little soil in there. I am going to use my, I've been experimenting with this mix that has quite a bit of akadama in it, which my trees are seeming to like. So I'm going to go with that. And I'll get the tree placed in there. It's got a little bit of soil on the bottom, and then we'll just pack it in on the side because I do want the roots to start encourage them to grow horizontally. And so I am just going to wire the tree in, kind of gently. You don't need much to hold it in here. It's indoors. It's not going to get blown off the bench or have a squirrel try to wrangle it out of the pot or anything. So I don't need to really ratchet it down. Um, but I will, sort of get my pliers here and, you know, I sort of want it basically to kind of firmly hold the tree, but not too firmly. Because the wire does cut in, and you definitely want to watch, particularly these Portulacaria Afras, because you will get wire marks, and I definitely don't want that here in my surface roots. So I just kind of tighten it a little bit till I can kind of confidently move the tree in there, and it's not jiggling around. And I think that looks pretty good. And so the next step is to go ahead and put some more soil in there, um, and kind of fill it up. Let me see what I've got here. I got to find my scoop. I haven't repotted a tree in a while, so I've got everything in the wrong spot. So I just need to. I mean, everything's handy out here. This is in my chiller area, my repotting workshop area. So I'll just move the roots. Kind of get them going in the right direction, and out to the side and splay them out a bit, and then here we go with the soil. Now I'll probably this is again the Akadama soil. It's mostly, I think it's like 50% Akadama, 25% black lava, and 25% humus. And I've been having pretty good luck with it. Doesn't stay too wet. The trees really seem to like it. So I'm going to try it with this tree. I'm not a huge fan of, the pumice and how it, uh, you get these white spots. I don't know. It just really bothers me. I used to use an amazing bonsai soil. I'm just kind of working this into the roots because we did sort of bare root this thing, and I want to make sure it's got soil in there. Being kind of gentle. I took a lot of roots off. I don't want to damage what I've got left. Um, but yeah, I used to have this amazing soil from Bonsai Northwest, and it was just beautiful, like a nice kind of reddish brown color, no white spots. And so I've gotten used to that. And after I took close to 15 years off of bonsai and I came back, that soil's no longer available, and everyone is kind of using pumice. And I guess if I had never gotten used to a beautiful kind of red brown soil, it wouldn't bother me. But every time I see these white specks, it just kind of ruins it for me. So I'm definitely going to put there's like a top soil layer I like to put on here, which I think also helps with maybe moisture a bit. Just working this in between some of these roots. Um, yeah, I decided to just keep these roots. I mean, it's kind of looks to me like a claw grabbing the soil. And I know a lot of people like, oh, those are circular roots, and so yeah, it obviously does not meet the definition of exactly what you want in a root base, but I mean, I love it, so that's all that matters to me. I kind of like how it looks, and I think over time, these will just get bigger and bigger and swell into, kind of a rippled mass, and I think, it'll sort of take care of itself. So that looks pretty good. Here we go with the topsoil layer I was talking about. It doesn't look so red here, but when it gets wet, it's just beautiful. And it's kind of like this is I think it's Epsoma. I have a video, if you look in my playlist on soil, where I kind of analyze this one. And, it's a little dusty, but, I don't even really filter it because I don't use it. I just snip this off and neaten it up. I don't use it, for the whole pot. I just put it on the top. And so, whatever, a little bit of dust will kind of go down through and wash out. Like I haven't been sifting it, although I have a good friend Dave, who's a viewer, that If you sift it, you're probably going to lose about 30%, but I basically only use it for this thin top layer, and I haven't had problems with it. You can see it is quite dusty, a little smoke flying around, but yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it's a much more appropriate pot. I mean, a lot of people don't like, green with green, I know a lot of friends that don't like to use green pots with trees that don't, flower or have some white on them, or, where you get like a contrast to the green. So they think it's like too matchy matchy. But I like this. I mean, this is kind of a washed out green pot as well. And I think it looks great. I think it's the perfect size for this, especially when this tree fills out a little bit more. And I just love it. And I'm really happy with the change. And hopefully my diagnosis is correct. And this tree will be back to bountiful health very, very soon. Once again, you can just kind of see it's about 1 to 1 on the pot size. But as I said, this tree is going to fill out a bit. And we'll do one more victory lap. I think a good thought for the day is, if your trees aren't doing well, don't wait, take action. He who hesitates is lost, and pull them out of the pot and look at the roots and, make some adjustments if you need to. If you get at it early, you can certainly save the tree. Um, and yeah, I am very happy with this, and subscribe to the channel and you can watch the development of this. I am really liking this new pot, and we have a tree in its new home, and I couldn't be happier. And with that, I want to thank you for spending time with me. I look forward to seeing you all again very soon.